All right, it's a big, big week. And I don't just mean Big Mama's House 2 is finally on DVD. I don't mean that. It's a bigger movie we got to talk about. Wade, what is that movie?
That movie is Inception. Inception is the latest film from Christopher Nolan. It is his follow-up film to The Dark Knight, which of course became the second all-time highest grossing film at the time it was released. Phenomenal success. Christopher Nolan is one of the hottest directors in Hollywood. One of the few who can sort of be an auteur and a commercial filmmaker all at the same time. Inception has been creating buzz for months and months and months. We saw this at the same screening last night. We have not talked about it since.
And you know what? Normally what I would do is I would talk to Wade after the screening, or I would email Wade and hey, what'd you think?
No.
Didn't talk to him.
Because I wanted this to be fresh.
No.
It's our only movie today.
I think you didn't talk to me because you didn't like it.
You think so?
Please tell us, Wade.
Explain. Explain. I've introed the film.
Because you hate everything. That's why you're a critic.
I liked Predators last week, of all things.
I know, so did I. It was good.
Come on.
I admit it. I'm not a hater like you. Okay, so what?
Go. Let's hear what you thought. Let's hear what you thought.
What I thought?
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. And okay, I can tell by that reaction that I'm right. He didn't like it. So before you hear from me, the lover, hear from Wade, the hater. Go.
Okay, here are my issues. I don't think it's a bad film. I don't think it's a bad film, but I also don't think it's a good film. I think it's a problem film. I admire Christopher Nolan's ambition enormously. It is an incredibly ambitious film. It wants to wrap itself around enormous ideas and concepts and a plot that has mechanics that are very, very, very difficult. I mean, it takes a half an hour to explain the rules. And even then I was kind of getting a little bit upset. I was like, you know, there are far too many rules and ladders for me to have to put together just to sort of make sense of this film. I don't want to have to build the script in my head while I'm watching it. But then I got into it and I was able to kind of make sense of it. But the problem for me is that while there's a lot of virtuoso filmmaking in here, I don't think there's a lot of virtuoso storytelling. I think the movie gets in its own way too much. I think the mechanics are so convoluted and the plot is so dense that it's impossible to separate out the heist facet of the film from that story facet, from the relationship stuff with Marion Cotillard, which you're supposed to really feel for. You're supposed to believe that these people have this marriage, this incredible love, and there's this distress, and he's lost her, and the grief is what keeps interfering with the job. And I never cared. I just didn't care.
First, I'll say what fell short for me, although I liked it enormously anyway. Christopher Nolan there's a knock on him that he's a very cold filmmaker. And if you look at his movies like Following, which I loved, and Memento, and the Batman films, and there's Prestige in there too, and Insomnia, these are not romantic films. So obviously he's not a romantic filmmaker. So here you have a movie that is just chock-a-block with, as you say, process and mechanics and a world that has to be figured out. What he tries to do, and doesn't really do it all that well, he tries to introduce two separate emotional strands. One is DiCaprio and his ex-wife issues, and the other is the Mark, the person who is being planted with this thought, played by Cillian Murphy. He's got father issues. So between the father issues of the Mark and the ex-wife issues of the hero, he's trying to sort of put some sort of emotional component in a film.
Did you care about either of them?
No, I didn't.
See, I didn't either. But that's a failing. That's a huge failing.
It's a failing, but I was okay with it because I like the fact that it's the type of story that you've got to pay attention. Nolan is always one or two steps ahead of you, but he's never totally pulling away. You've got to pay attention, but yet you can still stay in the game, and you have a feeling, and you know what, and I don't say this a lot, I will see it again and pay for it, because I feel like I need to see it again, because there's a lot I didn't get, but I'm okay with that.
Dreamscape, obviously, is a movie that comes to mind from the 80s, 1984, Dennis Quaid. Similar kind of a plot. I thought actually, as cheesy and schlocky as it was, executed the idea better. Not as good a movie, but executed the idea better. Brazil plays with these ideas a little bit. Open Your Eyes, Alejandro Amenabar's movie that was completely mutilated into Vanilla Sky here. Much better film.
I do like those films, but I also like this film because, but to speak to your point about the world that they create. In the film, Ellen Page from Juno plays the architect, who's the person who actually builds the world in which all these other characters inhabit. And Ellen Page has a thankless job in the film, which is to explain the rules. She's essentially the audience surrogate.
Yeah.
She's the one who understands nothing, like we do as the audience, and then DiCaprio sort of says it to her, and of course, he's really saying it to us. So yes, there's a lot to absorb, but...
She's great, by the way. I mean, I thought Ellen Page was just about the best thing in the movie. And I should say, too, before you go on, I just can't get into DiCaprio as an actor.
I like him. You know what?
I just can't.
I'll tell you something.
There's nothing there for me.
I'll tell you something. And I'm really hot and cold on him because the knock on him is that he's got the baby face and no one can take him seriously as an adult actor. But when he was in Blood Diamond, that was the first time in Blood Diamond where I thought he's finally becoming that lead. He was nominated for an Oscar for it. He was finally becoming
that's great.
He was finally becoming a man. Miscast in The Aviator.
You have met people from South Africa, haven't you? They don't talk like that.
Well, whatever.
It's a terrible accent. It's horrible.
Don't worry about that.
Leonardo DiCaprio has one reaction when things get tough. It's this.
But here's something. But here's a case where
that's his intense look.
No, but here's a case where his boyish face, what's left of it, because he's getting older now, where his boyish face helps because you have to feel this guy's pain as he can't get over his wife. So if it was a total stone-faced Gary Cooper type, you'd really feel nothing in the movie.
You know, it just didn't work. If you had somebody like a Daniel Craig in that part, it would have worked for me. If you would have had somebody...
Yeah, because then it'd be a James Bond film.
If you'd had somebody like a Clive Owen in the part, it would have worked for me. I mean, these are actors who know how to communicate toughness and vulnerability.
Clive Owen
he
would be
can't
good.
communicate either.
Clive Owen would be
Clive
good.
Owen would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But he can't. I don't think Leo can communicate either. Every time he's in a part where he's required to do any kind of heavy emotional lifting, he just fails for me.
He fails.
Absolutely.
Now, the one thing we'll say is that before we move on is that the film looks amazing. It is extremely...
Wally Pfister shot it.
Wally
who, of course,
Pfister
is,
shot it.
You know, a great, extraordinary cinematographer.
He also shot the two Batman films,
Yeah.
so it's shot. It's very sort of modern and cool and a little desaturated.
Although, honestly, our good friend Tim Cogshell emailed me afterwards. He said, you know, all the look of the film was pretty much done already in Dark City, and he's right. Dark City did a lot of this
I
already.
love Dark. That's a great movie.
Yeah.
Dark City, everyone.
So, you know,
I
mean, we can go on and on and on with all these dream movies and these, you know, is it or isn't it real movies, but I don't see anything in this film that I haven't seen done better elsewhere from a story standpoint.
I'll say this: if he shoots for the stars and gets the moon, that's okay, especially this summer.
I'm more impressed with his ambition than with his execution. I agree with that. But that's a problem for me. If you're going to be really, really ambitious and you're not going to completely deliver, your ambition generates my expectations. And if you set your ambition really high, I'm setting my expectations high. And if you fail to deliver, then I don't get what I came for. And that's a problem.
And that's so basically the issue is the emotional component was not there for you.
Emotional component not there. And honestly, the whole heist factor, I mean, so it takes place in somebody's head. It's still a heist. It's still not as good as Ocean's 11. It's not as good as the first Mission Impossible.
But again, it's exciting, and you also have to keep up with it. And movies nowadays you never have to keep up with because again, there's actually 3 layers.
Yeah.
And by the way, we have to call out the editor because it was very well edited. Because when you're
excellent
not
editing.
when you're not only dealing with 3 layers worth of reality, but also real life,
Yeah.
it looks like a script problem, and of course it is. But it's also an editing problem because you got to
Yeah.
keep all those straight. And the guy does a great job.
He does a great job, but again, the fact that it actually does that is what undercuts and derails the emotional component.
Well, he's just not an emotional filmmaker. It's like Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to
but
compare
then
the two.
don't
It's like Stanley Kubrick.
don't put those threads in the movie. Don't lead me to believe that I'm going to be seeing an emotional movie.
Okay, hater, lover.
Don't put
I'm
it
just
there.
saying it. You know, proof
There
right
it
there.
is.
There it is. All right, I say see it. In fact, I'm going to see it again. Nah.
You know, but here's my last analogy. My last analogy. Here's why I think you and a lot of others actually like this, or think you like it more than you do. Imagine that you put 10-pound weights on your ankles and you walk around all day. When you take them off, you think you're going to fly, but you're not flying. You're just walking around like you would if you didn't have 10-pound weights on your ankles. We have seen so much junk this summer. There's been so much crap this summer, so much junk, that just the fact that there's a movie that's not junk, it suddenly feels like a masterpiece.
Yes, it
but
does.
it's not.
Yes,
It's
it
just
does.
by
Things
comparison.
Thank you very
right?
much.
Things explode upon explosions. Like
There you go.
There it is.
That's all that matters.
So Inception, very highly recommended for me. Recommended for you, buddy. Just say it. Yes, we're moving on.
You know what? See Toy Story 3 again.
Oh, how dare you.